Greetings and welcome, Troy Brown here with another video, and today we are going to be showing you the inverted row and why I feel this movement is a mass builder when done right. Check it out. There's a few ways to do the inverted row, but the best way for me over the years, how I've been enabled myself to get full function of my upper back and lats, is to do it on a TRX band. I remember back in the day, I used to think about the TRX as an exercise that was kind of pointless, and how wrong was I? So I wanted to show you today why I really think it could benefit you, especially if you have any shoulder discrepancies, if you have any injuries, and you'll find that using the TRX will allow you to move your hands a little bit more freely. I found with the bar, when I'm using the barbell or a Swift machine as an example, or holding onto a fixed bar, the higher up I came, I found as I was getting this internal rotation, and it was very discomforting in my shoulder joint. So now I find that doing the TRX is so much more better because you got better range of motion. You can actually recruit more muscle fiber. You can get a little bit higher up in this position when you're in this neutral position or somewhat pronated and semi-neutral position by just coming up. And you can really activate those upper back muscles, i.e. the rear deltoids, the trapezius muscle, also the rhomboids, and also you can turn it into a lat exercise too. So if you have any issues with doing bent over rows as an example, I find that doing a fixed barbell bent over row with a lot of the clients I work with, they can't do it because of the shoulder discrepancies that they have because the bar is fixed. Even an underhand grip as well, if you're doing an underhand grip barbell row, let's look at the underhand grip barbell row just for a second here. If I were to put my hands out in front, okay, this side I can get very supinated. This hand where I've had some discrepancies in my shoulders, as you can see, this one's on an angle. That's how much I can turn it. So if I'm grabbing a barbell, let's say I'm doing barbell curls, or if I'm doing bent over rows, you can see I'm gonna have a very, very hard time to get into that right position, which is gonna mean when I grab that bar, I'm gonna get into that internal rotation, and that's not good. So what we have to think about is what will allow me better access in the bent over row position, which will probably be an EZ bar, because if you're using an easy bar, what you're doing is you're holding the bar in this position. You're not actually, you're not having the hands, if you were really in that supinated position, you've got that sort of inward position there, which is allowing you to get into that semi-neutral and semi-supinated position, which is good. But going back to the TRX, think about this. When you're doing the TRX and you're trying to incorporate your lats, what can happen very, very easily is recruiting biceps. One of the only sort of issues that some people have with the TRX, as an example, when you're training your back, is the biceps do take a lot of the load. So think about when you're trying to pull yourself up, instead of trying to pull yourself up this way, okay, which is what we normally do, try and think about pulling the hands a little bit further downwards, which will allow you to recruit a lot more latissimus dorsi instead of recruiting the brachialis and the bicep. If If you're one of these people that has issues with doing bent over rows, as an example, a good replacement for you would be the inverted row. Whether it be using the TRX or using the Swift machine or using a standard bar just to pull yourself up. It's a great replacement for bent over rows. However, it's also a really good replacement for doing any pull-ups. I know for me, I have problems now. I can't do pull-ups anymore, and I'm okay with that, but I feel that a next regression would be doing an inverted row, but preference or my modality of choice, bar none, would be doing it on the TRX, using that neutral grip, but also trying around and testing it with the grip, using what you call a neutral grip or going into more of a pronated grip or a bit of both, and play around with it and see if you can really feel those muscles being worked. Because the thing about training back, as I mentioned before in previous videos, is that you can't see it. So you do have to take an internal focus, an internal view of how you train your back. So you've got to see in your mind's eye how those muscles integrate and how they function and how they contract, and also how they lengthen as well. Some things to take into consideration when doing an inverted row, whether it be on a barbell, Smith machine, or doing it with a TRX, is to think about not moving your trapezius muscles, is to not move your shoulders. What most people do when they row, especially if you're doing a bent over row as an example, or even a one-arm dumbbell row, is to bring those traps up, right? So resist that urge. And one of the beautiful things about using the TRX is that it can adjust to your skill set. You can actually adjust the feet positioning. That will allow you to get more function out of the movement. So if you want to make it a little bit more easy in the beginning, if you're not as skilled, you can actually go into more of a bent leg position. If you're a lot more seasoned, then you can go into more of a straight leg position. If you're more seasoned than that, then what you can do is do it on a bench, or you can even do it on a stability ball, having your feet on top of a stability ball. Those are really, really challenging, by the way. You know, if I'm working with a client and I'm with them personally in the gym, in their energy, what I look for when doing any sort of back exercise, in fact, pretty much all the movements, if they're looking for hypertrophy, is the regularity of the stimulus. What this means is that every single repetition has to look the same. And this is where tempo comes into play. This is where the time under tension comes into play. So ideally what I'm looking for is that if they're looking to build muscle, regardless of how many reps they do, the goal is not to complete reps, is actually to challenge the muscle, challenge the function of the muscle. So if I'm trying to really incorporate lats on the TRX as an example, then I'm looking to keep the reps the same, and I'm making sure that I'm in that ballpark of working in a 40 to 70 second rep range of time in every set that they do. And that's a really good rule of thumb that we all need to remember, especially from a hypertrophy standpoint. Okay, so if I'm cueing you in the gym, one thing I would want you to do is how you set up's important, right? And obviously on top of that is your stability. So those are two givens. On top of that, you want to make sure that the regularity of the stimulus is the same, meaning all the reps look the same, and you want to keep constant tension on the muscles. So if I'm trying to work, let's say, primarily upper back, the function of the upper back, the trapezius, the rhomboids, the rear deltoids as an example, then what I'm going to get you to do is when you're in this starting position, okay, you're going to actually be protracted, all right? And then when you start to come up, you're going to go into a neutral position, then pull yourself up based on where those handles go. We're trying to activate upper back, right? So based on where those handles go, I want to keep wide. I want to bring my elbows around to the spine. So if I think of that in my mind's eye, I'm going to get an amazing contraction. I'm going to really force those muscles to really shorten. I appreciate you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and if you've got some value from this video, you know what to do. Hit the like button. Also, you can leave a comment below, positive or negative. All comments are welcomed. And more importantly, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, which is round about there, and I'll see you, my friend, on the next video. Cheerio.